In a busy city square, a black teen is quietly working on his laptop when a white officer confronts him out of nowhere. The confrontation escalates quickly and ends with public humiliation, but the officer has no clue who he just messed with or who's watching. "What are you doing with that?" The words dropped like acid in the middle of the park's calm. Heads turned, birds scattered from a nearby fountain, and Isaiah froze. He looked up slowly, his fingers still hovering over the keyboard of his laptop. The screen in front of him flickered with graphs and code, half a line away from completing a real-time data encryption prototype. The officer stood over him, sunglasses reflecting the boy's confused face. His name tag read, R. McConnell. His posture screamed entitlement, hands on hips, feet planted like he was standing guard over something sacred. But there was no crime, no threat, just a teenage boy, in sweats, typing, alone. "Sir?" Isaiah asked cautiously. McConnell pointed at the laptop. "That's yours." Isaiah blinked. "Yes." "Why?" McConnell's lips curled. "Because I don't believe that." Isaiah tilted his head. "You don't believe what, sir? That you own a device like that, or that you're doing anything legal with it?" Isaiah stared at him, stunned. A few people walking by slowed. "A down." Someone pulled out their phone. "I'm just doing my project for a competition." McConnell scoffed. "What kind of competition? Who told you could sit here?" Isaiah's hands rested calmly in his lap. "It's a national cybersecurity program. I made it to the finals." McConnell chuckled, loudly, cruelly. "You? Finals?" He stepped closer. "What are you really doing? Hacking something?" "No, sir. I'm building a defensive tool. For hospitals." McConnell reached down. Isaiah moved slightly back, and just like that, the officer slammed the laptop shut with a violent snap. The crowd gasped. A woman yelled, "Hey, that's not right!" McConnell leaned in, ignoring the voices. Around him, "You think you're clever, think you can play tech genius in the park and people'll just let you? Not on my watch." Isaiah's heart was pounding. His project was gone, just like that, unsaved. "Sir, please." That was important. "It took me 3 months." Crack! McConnell grabbed the laptop by the corner and threw it against the nearby bench. Plastic shattered. The screen burst into digital blood. Silence, then murmurs, then phones. McConnell stood over the wreckage, breathing hard, like he'd just wrestled a threat to the ground. Isaiah didn't move, didn't flinch, just stared at the shards of his future in the dirt. A single tear slipped down his cheek, but his voice, steady, quiet, razor-sharp. "You should Google me." McConnell blinked. "What?" Isaiah stood up slowly. "When you go home tonight, type my name, see what pops up." McConnell looked him over again, uncertain now. "What's your name?" Isaiah locked eyes with him. No fear. Isaiah Benjamin Langston. The name floated in the air, familiar to someone in the crowd. A few people turned to each other, whispering. McConnell frowned. "That's supposed to mean something." A voice from the back said, "Wait, that's Langston's kid." The officer's neck snapped to the left. "What?" A man stepped forward from the crowd, suit and all, badge half visible inside his coat. "You just destroyed the work of a genius, and the son of a federal cybersecurity judge." McConnell's face paled. Isaiah didn't move. He just watched. Calm. Cold. The boy they tried to humiliate had already built a firewall that even federal agencies couldn't crack, and now the country would watch him tear one down. The video hit social media before Isaiah even made it home. It wasn't long, just under 2 minutes, but that was all it needed to be. A black teen, a white officer, a laptop shattered like glass, and one haunting line at the end. "You should Google me." By the time Isaiah walked up the stairs to their brownstone apartment in Capitol Hill, it had already been viewed over 80,000 times. He didn't check, didn't need to. His eyes were dry now. His hands still smelled faintly of scorched plastic. He walked past their neighbor, Mrs. Daniels, who was staring at him through her peephole like she'd just seen a ghost with a badge. Inside, the silence was loud. His mom wasn't home yet. Court ran late sometimes. Isaiah sat on the couch. Not crying, not speaking, just thinking. His fingers twitched like they still wanted to finish the code, but there was no keyboard now, no screen. Just the taste of shame in his throat and the weight of helplessness in his chest. A voice stirred behind him. I saw it. Isaiah turned. Uncle Warren stood in the hallway, ex-military, now head of security for the Department of Cyber Defense. He had the same eyes as his sister, Isaiah's mother, but he was colder, sharper, built for war. Isaiah hadn't even heard him come in. You didn't do anything wrong, Warren said quietly. I know, Isaiah replied. Warren walked into. The room paused and looked at the boy, then down at the table. The missing laptop left an empty space like a scar. He let out a long breath. They don't get to do that. Not to you, not to anyone. Isaiah looked down. It wasn't just the laptop, it was everything, Warren nodded. Yeah, I know. He pulled out a USB drive from his pocket, tossed it on the table. That's your code backup. Pulled it from the cloud before the story hit. You were working offline, but AutoSync got a fragment. Enough. Isaiah blinked. You already... I saw the video 10 minutes after it went live, Warren said, and then I traced every device that uploaded it, every server that cached it, and every media rep that flagged it. Isaiah raised his head. Why? Warren didn't smile, didn't blink. Because people need to know exactly who they just humiliated. Isaiah exhaled slowly. I don't want revenge. I'm not talking about revenge. Warren sat down across from him. I'm talking about justice and optics, because they didn't just shatter your laptop. They shattered their own lie, that your kind doesn't belong. Isaiah looked at him. What happens now? Warren leaned back. We wait. We watch. And we prepare, Isaiah nodded. And somewhere across town, Officer McConnell was sitting in his patrol car, staring at his phone screen, watching the views go up, watching the comments explode. Is this the new Emmett Till moment? That cop just destroyed the future in front of everyone. Langston, isn't that the judge who ruled on the NSA leaks? McConnell's palms started sweating. He opened the door, stepped outside. The wind hit his face, and, in that exact moment, a reporter walked right up to him. Officer McConnell, do you have a comment about what you did to Isaiah Langston's laptop this afternoon? His mouth opened, then closed. No comment, he muttered. But it was already too late, because one city block away, someone else had just seen the clip, and she wasn't just a federal judge. She was his mother. Judge Naomi Langston didn't raise her voice. She didn't slam the door when she walked in, didn't hurl her coat or her briefcase. She simply walked quietly, controlled, every movement weighed and precise, like her court. Rulings. Isaiah stood the moment she entered, but she raised a hand before he could speak. I saw it. Her voice was low, measured, deadly. Isaiah looked down. Naomi walked past him into the living room, stopping at the table where the shattered remains of his laptop now sat. Uncle Warren had retrieved it from the park an hour ago, fragments neatly, zipped into a clear evidence bag. She studied it like a crime scene. Then finally she turned to her son. Are you hurt? Isaiah shook his head. Just the laptop and everything else. She nodded once, a long pause. Then she looked at Warren. You started the trace. Warren nodded. Started and finished. We have body cam timestamp mismatch, surveillance footage from 2 angles, multiple bystander videos. Cop's report was already filed. It's a lie. Says Isaiah was acting suspicious, loitering, tampering with public Wi-Fi. Naomi turned back to Isaiah. And what were you building? Isaiah swallowed. a rapid defense encryption layer for hospital systems to help shut down ransomware attacks before they can breach patient files. Naomi blinked, then I sat down. The silence pressed in for a long beat. Finally, she spoke. "He thought he was humiliating a child," she said softly. "What he actually did was break a federal cybersecurity prototype during a government-sponsored youth initiative in front of a crowd while being filmed." Isaiah's eyebrows twitched. "You sound like you're already building a case." Naomi gave him a faint, sharp smile. "I never stop." She picked up her phone, dialed a number from Director Owens. "It's Langston." "Yes, my son." She paused, listening. "No. No hospitalization. Just a device. And the illusion of dignity." She stood up and walked toward the kitchen, continuing the conversation in hushed tones. Isaiah sat beside Warren. "She's going to war, isn't she?" he whispered. Warren smirked. "Janie, she is at war." A few blocks away inside the precinct, McConnell sat slumped at his desk. He'd been called in for a friendly review by Internal Affairs, but it didn't feel friendly or routine. He looked up as his supervisor walked in, Captain Rodriguez, Latino. Tough, no nonsense. She shut the door. Hard. "Officer McConnell," she said without sitting, "we've got a problem." He nodded slowly. "The laptop thing. I know. It blew up." "It didn't blow up," she snapped. "It detonated a bomb under our entire department." McConnell tried to speak, but Rodriguez cut him off. "You destroyed government-sponsored research. You violated a federal youth protection clause. And you did it to the son of one of the most respected judges in the country." McConnell blinked. "I didn't know." "That's the point," she exploded. "You didn't know because you didn't care. You saw a young black teen in a hoodie and made assumptions. Now our phones won't stop ringing. Civil rights lawyers, federal cyber units, DHS. He tried to laugh nervously. "They won't really come after me for one laptop, right?" Rodriguez leaned forward. "Google the name. Isaiah Benjamin Langston." McConnell didn't move, so she pulled out her tablet. Opened an article. 17-year-old tech prodigy becomes youngest finalist in U.S. Cybersecurity Defense Challenge. And there he was. The same face, the same hoodie. But this time smiling, standing next to Congresswoman Diaz during a scholarship. Award ceremony. McConnell's mouth went dry. Rodriguez's voice dropped to a whisper. "You didn't destroy a laptop. You lit a fire under a woman who dismantled empires for fun." Back at home, Naomi Langston ended her call. Her face was unreadable. She looked at Isaiah. "You're not going to hide. You're going to finish your project. We'll replace the laptop. We'll rebuild every file." Isaiah nodded slowly. "And the cop?" Naomi's voice was like ice. "His career ends before the week does." Isaiah met her eyes, and for the first time since the incident, he believed her. By morning, the video had crossed 2 million views. News anchors dissected it frame by frame. TikTok was flooded with duets. Hashtags trended globally. "Justice for Isaiah. Dutch Langston laptop." "This is why we kneel." A clip of Isaiah saying, "You should Google me," had already become a soundbite, used in thousands of remix reels layered with beats, strings, and even gospel choirs. But Isaiah didn't care about any of that. He wasn't scrolling. He didn't like it. He wasn't retweeting. He was rebuilding. On the kitchen table sat a new, state-of-the-art laptop, twice the speed of his last one, with a custom thermal processor and a pre-installed cybersecurity suite gifted from the Department of Defense. He typed fast, methodically. Code streamed across the screen like rain on glass. Warren stood in the doorway, sipping black coffee. "You're focused." Isaiah didn't stop typing. "They made it public. I have to make it count." Downstairs, a knock. Warren glanced at the door cam. "Reporters." Isaiah didn't look up. "Don't let them in." Warren opened the app, spoke into the mic. "No comment. Respect our privacy." The woman outside looked disappointed, but nodded respectfully. Naomi stepped into the room. Fresh blazer, neat hair, face like marble. "They'll get louder," she said calmly. "The press, the protesters, the public." Isaiah finally looked up. "They want blood," she nodded. "But we want change." He exhaled. "What's the difference?" "Blood fades," Naomi said. "Change lingerie." Outside, across the city, students were walking out of class. From D.C. to Atlanta to Oakland, teens carried cardboard signs. "Protect our brilliance. He could have been me." We're not threats, we're blueprints. At Howard University, a professor stopped mid-lecture and projected Isaiah's name onto a giant screen. "This," he said, "is why representation in tech is not enough. We need protection, recognition, and amplification." Back at the precinct, McConnell had been placed on administrative leave, but his badge still weighed heavily on his belt. He sat on his back porch, beer in hand, eyes sunken. His wife hadn't spoken to him all morning. His son wouldn't come downstairs. The neighborhood was quiet, but not for long. Someone dropped a flyer on his doorstep. "Isaiah Benjamin Langston. Our future. Our genius." Beneath it was a QR code to donate to Isaiah's scholarship fund. Already raised over $200,000 in 24 hours. McConnell crushed the can. Back in Capitol Hill, Naomi entered her private office and locked the door. A laptop opened. Files loaded. One tab showed McConnell's entire disciplinary history. Another showed emails from an internal watchdog unit Naomi had helped create 10 years ago, designed to catch and prosecute racist patterns in policing systems. She clicked through photos, reports, body cam audits. It was all there. McConnell wasn't a one-time offender. He was a pattern, targeting black teens, minor offenses, suspicious tech behavior. 2 complaints had been dismissed for lack of video evidence. This time, there was a video. This time, there was rage. Naomi opened her voice memo recorder. Memo draft: civil rights abuse via systemic profiling, violation of minor rights under tech protection law, destruction of government-sponsored youth research assets, malicious conduct in uniform. Attached evidence threads A1 through A12. She clicked save, she clicked send. The email routed through encrypted servers and landed in the inbox of the Deputy Director of Civil Litigation for the Eastern District. Subject: formal recommendation. For prosecution, Officer R. McConnell, and in her calm, quiet way, Judge Naomi Langston declared war. Meanwhile, Isaiah stepped outside for the first time since it happened. He walked to the park. Same bench, same tree. Reclaimed the space. Someone recognized him. Then another. A group of kids clapped. A woman wept. A man with a megaphone shouted, "This is the face of resistance." Isaiah didn't speak. He sat, opened the new laptop, typed one line of code, and started again. The hearing room wasn't a courtroom, but it felt just as cold. Fluorescent lights, long table, 2 microphones, no cameras, just silence and consequence. Officer R. McConnell sat, with his union rep to his right. Across the table, a review panel of 5, 3 civilians, 2 internal investigators, all stone-faced. Captain Rodriguez stood in the back, arms folded, jaw tight. The lead panelist adjusted her glasses. "Let's begin." McConnell cleared his throat. "I've served 22 years. Commendations, community events, 0 excessive force complaints. Not 0. The investigator cut in, scrolling through a file. "Dismissed or unsubstantiated is not the same as non-existent." McConnell blinked. The panelist continued, "This isn't just about a device, officer. You destroyed federally backed research belonging to a minor, and you lied about the reason. I didn't know who he was." "But you knew he was a kid." McConnell froze. The investigator leaned in. "What made him suspicious of you? Officer, the hoodie, the skin tone, the fact that he was typing too fast?" I don't know. You assumed criminality, because he didn't look like the future you're used to seeing." The silence screamed louder than any argument. Meanwhile, across the city, Isaiah sat alone in his room. His inbox was full. "We'd love to fly you out to speak at the National Youth Tech Summit. Your story is inspiring. You're the face of the new tech generation." He stared at the messages, didn't reply. His mother knocked softly. "Can I come in?" Isaiah nodded. Naomi stepped inside and sat on the bed beside him. "They want you to speak," she said gently. "I don't want to be a symbol," Isaiah whispered. "I just wanted to compete." "I know. Now everyone sees me as a victim or a hero. I didn't ask for either." Naomi looked at him carefully. "Do you remember what you told me when you were 9, the first time someone followed you in a store?" He nodded. "I said, they looked at me like I was going to take something, but I just wanted to buy a book." Naomi placed her hand over his. "They're still looking, still assuming. But now, they see more. You gave them that. You didn't choose the stage, but you can choose how you stand on it." Isaiah swallowed hard, then nodded. Later that night, Naomi sat in a quiet corner of her study. She was reviewing more footage, this time from an unrelated case she'd flagged earlier that month. And then her phone buzzed. "Unknown number," she answered. "Judge Langston," the voice said. "This is Deputy Director Caldwell from the DOJ." Naomi straightened. "I read your report," he continued, "and I agree. This isn't just about McConnell, it's systemic, rotting from inside." "I'm glad you see that," she said. "I've authorized a task force. We'll start with DC precincts. Quietly, but we want your help overseeing the structure." Naomi didn't hesitate. "I'm in. Your son, he's remarkable. He's also recovering. We'll handle it carefully." After the call ended, Naomi sat still for a long time. Then I picked up a photo from her desk, a younger Isaiah, grinning, holding his first coding trophy. They said he was just a kid, but that kid had become a storm. The auditorium was packed. Rows upon rows of students, tech leaders, professors, government reps, even a few senators. Cameras lined the walls, news crews prepped for live streams. The National Youth Tech Summit hadn't seen this kind of attendance in a decade, and it was all because of one name, Isaiah Benjamin Langston. Backstage, Isaiah adjusted the mic on his collar. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from pressure, from the weight of 1,000,000 expectations. He stared at the tablet in his hands. His speech was there, drafted, revised, polished, but something felt wrong. He exhaled, put the tablet down, and stepped out onto the stage. The lights hit his face like 1,000 suns. The applause rolled like thunder. He waited until it faded. Then into the mic he spoke. "I had a speech prepared. I'm not going to read it." A few murmurs. Isaiah looked out at the sea of faces. "Because what happened to me? I shouldn't need a speech." A 17-year-old was coding in a public park. A cop walked up, made an assumption, and destroyed everything he didn't understand. He paused. "And the worst part isn't that it happened. The worst part is how normal it felt to everyone around me." Silence. They didn't gasp when he questioned me. They didn't scream when he grabbed the laptop. They started recording when they knew he was going to break it, because we've seen this show before. A hush spread through the room. Isaiah's voice tightened, not loud but sharp. "I wasn't a threat, I was a blueprint for defense systems, for hospital encryption, for a better digital world." And he didn't see that. He saw skin, a hoodie, a bench. He stepped forward. "And that's what we're fighting. Not just racism, design flaws in the system, a society coded to reject us before we log in." The crowd was still, frozen. Isaiah's jaw clenched. "I rebuilt my project. It's stronger now, faster. I encrypted my pain into code. I turned bias into firewall layers. Because when they tried to shut me down," he leaned into the mic, "I turned the crash into an upgrade." And then silence again, then a standing ovation. It went on for nearly 2 minutes. Isaiah didn't smile. He simply nodded once. then walked off stage as the applause chased him down the hallway. Back home, Naomi was watching. So was Warren. So was McConnell. He sat alone in his apartment, eyes locked on the screen, jaw twitching. His lawyer sat beside, him flipping through papers. "We still have options. You were under pressure. You had reasonable suspicion. We argue it wasn't racially motivated, just procedural." McConnell looked at him sideways. "You want me to lie?" The lawyer shrugged. "You want to stay out of jail." Across town, Naomi walked into a quiet building. Old, federal, hidden in plain sight. The DOJ task force had set up shop in D.C., under her advisory. They called it Project Mirror. She walked past rows of agents, analysts, and legal staff. Sat down in a war room with evidence pinned to boards, photos, records, officer complaints, patterns, heat maps of racial stops, an entire network of behavior. McConnell was just a node. The system went deep. Naomi stared at it all. Then I looked at the screen in front of her. A red dot blinked beside McConnell's name. "Time to escalate," she said. Her assistant nodded. "Media?" "No. Courts." She turned back to the board. Isaiah had spoken to the world. Now she would make it law. The fallout came faster than anyone expected. By Tuesday, Officer McConnell's suspension had turned into a formal termination. Hearing. By Wednesday, 4 civil rights firms had filed independent lawsuits. By Thursday, the mayor's office had issued a statement condemning deeply concerning behavior that failed to meet the standards of our city's values. And by Friday, the police union pulled its legal support. McConnell sat in his lawyer's office, fingers twitching, staring at the termination letter. "This is political," he muttered. "They're just trying to make an example out of me." His lawyer was done sugarcoating. "You are an example. You just didn't think the cameras would be rolling." McConnell rubbed his temples. "They want to erase me." The lawyer looked at him. "No, they want to show that the system can clean itself." He leaned forward. "But what you really should be afraid of is Judge Langston. She's not coming for your badge anymore. She's coming for the entire precinct." Across the city, Naomi stood in a federal briefing room at DOJ headquarters. Project Mirror had gone from a quiet task force to a full-scale internal operations team. The walls were covered in data, racial profiling heat maps, timeline incidents, officer names, civilian reports, suppression algorithms, and at the center of it all, an interactive screen with a glowing red node. DCPD, Zone 3. Officer Richard McConnell. Subnodes blinked around it. Commanders, dispatchers, a web of silence and complicity. Naomi tapped one. "This one ignored 6 early warnings," she said. "Should we include it in the Phase 1 report?" her assistant asked. Naomi's eyes narrowed. "Include everything." They were preparing to launch a public report. It would outline the pattern of bias within certain precincts, backed by government audits, public data, and anonymous whistleblower accounts. The report was scheduled for Monday, but that plan changed just hours later. Naomi's secure inbox pinged. Subject line, "There's more. They'll cover it up if you don't act now." Attached, a voice memo. She played it. The voice was low, muffled, nervous. "I worked in dispatch. I saw McConnell's record. His target profiling wasn't a secret. It was trained quietly. They call it the collapse protocol. Officers use it when they want to break someone without force. Slow harassment, systemic intimidation. I'll testify." "Just protect me." Naomi froze. Collapse protocol. A name, a program, and it wasn't just one cop. It was a practice. She leaned forward and hit record. Whistleblower evidence received. Immediate need for federal witness protection. Recommend inclusion of collapse protocol theory in Phase 1 findings. Beginning draft for emergency judiciary filing. At that moment, across town, Isaiah was walking home from a school tech lab. Alone, Hoodie up, backpack tight, sun setting. Two officers slowed beside him in a patrol car. They didn't say anything, just watched, then drove off. Isaiah's jaw clenched, not from fear, but from memory. He reached into his bag, pulled out a phone, opened. An app he'd been building, one-button emergency surveillance mode, active camera on. Audio live, GPS transmitting to Warren and Naomi. He wasn't going to be caught off guard again. He was the blueprint. And now he was building the shield too. The DOJ conference room was silent. All eyes were on the screen. In the center, a diagram of the collapse protocol. Red lines, dotted arrows, dates, names, locations. Naomi stood at the front, pointer in hand. Her voice was measured, but pulsing with restrained fury. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's not a rumor. It's architecture, systematic, consistent, and it's been quietly deployed under different names for over 8 years. Behind her, the audio played again, the whistleblower's voice. They target young black males who fit a profile. Tech. Savvy, well-dressed, confident. They see it as a challenge. They call it cutting them down before they grow roots. A federal prosecutor flinched. A clerk shifted in his seat. Naomi turned to the table. I am filing for an emergency injunction to freeze officer reassignment in every precinct that has an open collapse protocol record. I also request a temporary public disclosure waiver, enough for citizens to see the faces involved. A pause. Then a judge finally asked, You're accusing the department heads? Naomi didn't blink. I'm holding them responsible. Meanwhile, across town, Isaiah sat with a representative from a major non-profit legal coalition. They had just finished watching the pitch for his app, Protect. It's not just a recording tool, Isaiah explained. It's real-time, location sharing, passive cloud sync. It can't be shut down by the user or by a cop, and it doesn't store footage on the device. It's tamper-proof. The rep nodded slowly, stunned. How old are you again? 17. The woman smiled. You just built the black box for systemic policing. Isaiah didn't smile back. I built it because I needed it. Now I want every kid to have it. Free. She extended her hand. We'll fund the launch. Every state, every school, no red tape. Isaiah shook it, but as his name rose higher, the cracks in the system deepened. At DCPD headquarters, Chief Barlow was panicking. He sat with his senior advisors, staring at leaked screenshots from the Project Mirror task force. Someone had broken protocol. This report, if it drops on Monday, it'll name me, Barlow hissed. Sir, we can delay the hearing, one advisor said. Or challenge the whistleblower, cast doubt. No, we need leverage, Barlow snapped. Find something, anything. That Judge Langston, she has to have enemies. A junior aide spoke hesitantly. There is something, from years ago. Her husband, the accident. Barlow's eyes narrowed. Dig it up. The aide looked uneasy. That might cross legal lines. Barlow stood up slowly. They're already crossing lines. We're just staying competitive. Back at home, Naomi sat with Warren going over final edits on the report. She knows it's coming, Warren said. She knows, but she's not ready. Naomi scrolled through the last page, a list of recommended prosecutions. McConnell was there. So was Barlow. Do you think they'll retaliate? Warren asked. They already are, Naomi said. But they forgot one thing. What's that? She looked up at him. I know this game better than they do. Just then, her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. Text message. They're digging. Your husband. Be careful. Naomi stared. Then calmly deleted the text. They're playing offense, she said to Warren. Warren frowned. So what do we do? She smiled faintly. We upgrade our defense. The headlines hit early Sunday morning. Langston family tragedy. Unanswered. Questions in judges past. Justice weaponized. Husband's fatal crash re-examined amid fallout. Too much power in one family. Naomi sat at her desk, coffee in hand, reading each article without flinching. The timing was strategic, predictable. The smear campaign was meant to shake her, to cast doubt, to slow her down before the release of the DOJ report on Monday. But it didn't. She closed the browser, opened another, typed 3 words, Langston public letter. She started writing. Across the house, Isaiah was watching from the couch. His Uncle Warren stood nearby, fists clenched. "They're digging up Dad now?" Isaiah asked. "They're desperate," Warren replied. "They're using grief as a distraction." Isaiah's face tightened. "They think she'll fall apart." "She won't. She never does." And she didn't. Naomi finished the letter, proofread it once, then once more, then clicked post. It began trending within minutes. "My silence about my husband's death was never about shame. He died saving a child from a burning vehicle. A crash no one caused but the universe itself. I protected our family's grief. I protected my son's heart. But if the same people who trained officers to destroy laptops and futures think I will fold to whispers now, they've misunderstood what kind of woman I am." Judge Naomi Langston. The internet erupted. Support poured in from lawmakers, activists, students, and celebrities. But the most powerful comment came from someone unexpected. Senator Elias Boone, chair of the Judicial Ethics Committee. He tweeted, "Judge Langston is a pillar of integrity. If this is how power responds to accountability, then her report is not only valid, it's vital." Naomi hadn't just survived the attack, she'd weaponized it. And just hours later, Isaiah stood in front of his high school auditorium as Protect officially launched across the East Coast. Every student received the app. Every administrator received a legal briefing. Every local precinct got a warning memo. "If you harass," the banner read, "you're being watched." Isaiah stood behind the podium, phone in hand. "This app doesn't replace justice," he said, voice calm and firm. "It just makes ignoring injustice harder." He looked into the crowd. Dozens of students, teachers, parents. "My mom fights. In court, I fight in code. We both want the same thing, a system that sees us before it breaks us." Applause thundered through the gym. Meanwhile, inside DCPD HQ, Chief Barlow watched the broadcast in furious silence. "It's over," his deputy said softly. "Not yet," Barlow muttered. "We still have tonight." "What are you thinking?" Barlow. "Lit a cigarette. If they want to fight in public, let's bring them a firestorm." That night, Naomi received a final message from an encrypted DOJ line. "Your report is greenlit. Monday morning, prime time release. We stand behind you." She stared at it. Then I looked at the framed photo of her husband. A quiet man. A brave one. She touched the glass lightly. "They're coming for all of us now," she whispered, but her voice didn't shake. Her silence had never been a weakness. It was a strategy. And tomorrow she would speak. Monday arrives. And with it, the long-awaited public release of Naomi's DOJ-backed report. As the nation watches, reputations crumble. Isaiah testifies before Congress, and McConnell is forced to face the consequences of his actions under the full weight of federal law. Full chapter. Content: the report dropped at 8 a.m. Sharp.doj Task Force. Project Mirror, Phase 1 Findings. PDF, 73 pages, with a single, simple title at the top: Collapse Protocol, Institutional Silence in Uniform. News anchors stopped mid-broadcast. Government servers slowed under the traffic. Classrooms, courtrooms, and offices froze. Naomi didn't speak, didn't appear on camera. She didn't need to. The report spoke for her. It outlined everything, with dates, with names, with footage, internal memos from precincts, disciplinary records that had never gone public, and a list of 17 officers, including McConnell, under direct recommendation for federal prosecution. It called out one policy by name: Collapse Protocol, an unofficial practice of systemic targeting and psychological coercion. The media dubbed it the policing leak of the decade. By noon, Naomi's face was everywhere, even though she hadn't spoken a single word. Meanwhile, Isaiah was already at the Capitol. He sat before a congressional panel, quietly confident in his blazer and black shirt. The name tag in front of him simply read, Isaiah B. Langston. Cybersecurity student senators leaned in. The press leaned closer. He began, Collapse Protocol isn't just a name, it's a mindset. It's the belief that certain people don't belong in certain spaces, that someone who looks like me can't be brilliant, can't be harmless, can't just be. He continued, my laptop wasn't the first to be broken, just the first one caught on video. A senator from New Jersey asked, what do you believe should happen to Officer McConnell? Isaiah paused. I believe he should answer for his actions, but I don't want revenge. I want prevention. I want a future where the next Isaiah doesn't need an app to prove he belongs. Silence, then applause from staffers, from visitors, even from one or two lawmakers. At DCPD, McConnell sat stone-faced at a conference table with 3 federal agents. His badge was already gone. Now they handed him the final papers. Indictment for destruction of federal research property. Civil rights violation. Filing a false report. 3 felony charges. McConnell didn't speak. He knew this was the end. Across town, Chief Barlow received a formal summons and quietly submitted his resignation. The collapse had begun. Naomi watched it unfold from her office, calm, still. Her expression is unreadable. Warren walked in. It's happening, she nodded. Are you okay? He asked. I wasn't waiting for this day, she replied. I was preparing for it. Later that night, the Langstons sat around the dinner table. Simple food, quiet home, normal air. Naomi. Past Isaiah, the rice. You good? He nodded. Yeah, a beat passed. People keep asking if I feel like I won, he said. She tilted her head. And? Isaiah shrugged. I don't know yet. I just know it's not over. She smiled. Exactly. Because justice wasn't a finish line. It was maintenance. It was vigilance. And tonight it sat at their table, quiet, strong, and still hungry. The morning after the report went live, the courthouse felt different, not louder, not busier, just heavier. Whispers lingered longer in the hallways. Security eyes watched closer. And every judge Naomi passed paused, not to speak, but to see her. The reckoning had become real. She was invited to a secure meeting that afternoon. 12 federal judges, 2 senators, and a Department of Justice executive sat around an oak. Table, no press, no cameras, just power. And for once, it wasn't against her. A senior judge opened the session. Your report didn't just expose the collapse protocol. It exposed the culture that allowed it to live in silence. Naomi nodded once. That was the point. We'd like your help, he continued, in structuring a permanent oversight division, something real, independent, beyond politics. Naomi didn't hesitate. We call it the Langston Line. A few brows lifted. The Langston Line? One senator asked. She leaned forward. It's the baseline of conduct, not perfection, just dignity. It's the minimum standard below which we no longer allow excuses. The table was quiet. Then the judge spoke again. Welcome to the beginning. Meanwhile, Isaiah found himself at Charles Drew Middle School, invited to speak with 8th graders about protect and technology. He wore jeans and a navy hoodie, kept his voice low, his hands in his pockets. I'm not a hero, he said softly. I'm a kid who got pushed. A girl raised her hand. Were you scared? Isaiah nodded. Yeah, a boy asked. Do you still get scared? Isaiah looked at the floor for a long second. Sometimes, but I use it, like a battery. After the session ended, the teacher pulled him aside. There's one student who wants to talk to you privately. She insisted. Isaiah followed her to a smaller room. There, sitting alone, was a girl, skin the color of coffee, eyes sharp with something older than her age. She didn't look up. Isaiah sat across from her. Quiet. She finally spoke. My brother had a laptop too. Isaiah didn't speak. She continued. He was working on college applications. A cop said it looked stolen, slammed it shut, took it, never give it back. Isaiah's jaw tensed. When? Last year. Did. Your family? They didn't want trouble. Said just be grateful he wasn't arrested. She finally looked up. But now they're talking about you. Isaiah exhaled. I'm sorry that happened to him. She shook her head. No, I'm glad it happened to you, because people watched. They believed you. Her voice cracked, not with bitterness but longing. I just want my brother to believe in something again. Isaiah swallowed, then reached into his backpack, pulled out a brand new laptop, his own model from the Protect Initiative. Hold it out. Give this to him. She froze. He doesn't need to believe in me, Isaiah said. He just needs to believe he can finish what he started. She took it slowly, whispered, Thank you. Isaiah stood. Tell him. The blueprint's still open. He can add his name. As he walked out of the school, Isaiah realized something. He wasn't building shields anymore. He was building echoes, and they didn't fade. The marble floors of the courthouse echoed with a strange kind of quiet. Not the silence of peace, not the silence of intimidation. This was something heavier, the kind of silence that falls when justice holds its breath. In courtroom 4A, people sat shoulder to shoulder, no whispering, no movement, just waiting. On one side, reporters, legal analysts, survivors of similar encounters, students holding signs that read, Protect us all. On the other side, officials, skeptics, a few law enforcement personnel with nervous eyes, and in the front row, centered and still, sat Isaiah Benjamin Langston. He wore black. Not as a statement, but as a shield. He didn't blink, didn't shift. He just watched. At the defense table sat former officer Richard McConnell, once puffed with authority, now deflated. His eyes were bloodshot, jaw locked, suit collar too tight. His lawyer leaned in, whispering something, but McConnell wasn't listening. Not anymore, because the judge had entered the room, and with her came the reckoning. Judge Teresa Monroe was known across federal circles as the Scalpel. She didn't stand up, didn't soften. She simply cut to the truth. She took her seat, adjusted her glasses, and looked directly at McConnell. Mr. McConnell, she began, her voice sharp but composed. This court has reviewed your actions, documented by video, confirmed by record, and dissected by both law and public scrutiny. McConnell shifted in his seat. This is not a case of misunderstanding. It is a case of systemic rot. You operated under a protocol that was never written, but widely practiced. You engaged in psychological destruction disguised as law enforcement. And most damning of all, you targeted a child. She paused, a long one. Sayer's throat tightened, but still he didn't look away. Judge Monroe turned to him briefly. And not just any child, a child who built what this country couldn't. McConnell's lawyer stood. Your Honor, if I may, my client. She raised her hand. He sat back down. I will hear the statement from the defendant. Mr. McConnell, do you wish to address this court? For a moment, it seemed like he wouldn't. Then he stood, and when he spoke, it wasn't performative, it wasn't slick, it was broken. I didn't know who he was, he said. I saw a hoodie, a bench, a laptop, and I thought I knew what I was looking at. A few heads in the gallery turned toward Isaiah. I was trained to treat differences like danger. I let fear become instinct. I let that instinct become policy. And I let that policy destroy something bigger than I ever understood. He took a breath, looked at Isaiah, and this time really saw him. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do want to say, I was wrong. Judge Monroe nodded once. Thank you for your honesty. Though late, it is noted. Then came the sentencing. Her voice was even, measured, Richard McConnell, this court finds you guilty of destruction of federal property, falsification of reports, and violation of civil rights under color of law. She continued, you are sentenced to 5 years probation with 2 years of active federal monitoring. Your pension is revoked. You are barred from ever serving in law enforcement, public security, or training in any government capacity. You are also mandated to complete a federal civil justice education program and issue a public apology, approved by the DOJ and the Langston family. McConnell sat down, a shell of the uniform he once wore. And with that, the court adjourned. But it wasn't over, because Isaiah stood. He didn't have to. He wasn't required to speak. But he walked to the center aisle. The room turned. He faced the gallery. Not McConnell, not the judge, the people. I'm not here because I won, he said. I'm here because I refuse to disappear. He held up his phone. This is Protect. It's not just mine now. It belongs to every student who's ever been told they don't belong in a library or a park or a lab. He turned to the bench. To every judge who's ever listened, thank you. And to every kid still waiting to be believed. A pause. We see you. Then he stepped down and walked out. No press stops, no interviews. Just his mother waiting by the exit, composed, unreadable. They didn't need to say anything, because the world already had. That night, back home, the Langstons didn't celebrate. They cooked, ate, sat in silence, watched the city blink quietly through the windows. Naomi filed her final memorandum to the DOJ, a single paragraph. This isn't closure, it's compliance. The system now has tools it cannot ignore. The names it tried to erase are written in law, in protocol, in memory. She saved it. Then I closed the laptop. Warren stood at the doorway. Are you ready to rest? Naomi smiled faintly. Rest is relative, he chuckled. Fair. In the backyard, Isaiah sat cross-legged, hoodie pulled up against the breeze. His laptop hummed, not with revenge, not with war, but with creation. Lines of code pulsed on the screen, a new layer of Protect. Built for student councils, enabled for emergency access, designed for systems still too slow to change on their own. He hit a save, and then a notification blinked. Langston OS v1.0. First 10,000 installs complete. He smiled, because systems change when they're forced, but culture shifts when stories refuse to die, and his story, it had just begun rewriting the next chapter for millions. Final line, legacy close. Isaiah Benjamin Langston, no longer a target. Now,